everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of ClueCon Weekly. Joining us this week is a friend of ClueCon Weekly, Gavin Henry, founder of SentryPeer project, who's got an exciting project to show us and a demo and a lot of interesting stuff going on. So thank you for joining us again, Gavin.
Thanks, Luca. Very kind of you to have me back.
For the people who haven't seen the previous episode, which wasn't long ago, could you give us a quick introduction about yourself, please?
Yeah, I ran and founded a UK-based internet telephony service provider called ShortVoIP. That was acquired from me July 2021. So I'm currently at the company, a much bigger telco called Telco Switch, that acquired me. So I'm working for them, and this is just a side project, essentially, that I've been working on since around October 21, my evenings and weekends. I've now got to the point where I'm trying to lower the barrier to entry for using SentryPeer, because the adoption of it's been quite amazing, really. It's now in, so those of you that don't know, SentryPeer is effectively a SIP honeypot. It pretends to be a free PBX asterisk-based system. It lets bad actors or whoever send some SIP traffic, and it will always reply with a 200 OK at the moment. There are plans to make that like a proper SIP proxy, so it honors it, but I was quite surprised that nobody cares whether the headers are correct or the transaction IDs are correct, etc. So what it does is it lets the SIP come in, it takes a copy of the to, the from, the user agent, the source IP, the destination IP, and pops that in a nice event, and it automatically saves it to a SQLite database. So you've always got a copy, and it can save it to a JSON log file or put it to syslog, so you can use fail to ban, and it does all the proper things like honors environment variables, things like that. And I recently added a webhook capability, so it can pump the event not just in the database but save it to a central location. It's been adopted by the Deutsche Telekom open source honeypot project called Teapot. It's now
nice.
part of Kali Linux, the pen testing Linux most popular distribution. It's now part of Black Arc Linux, I think. Arc Linux, another pen testing distro. It's in Alpine Linux. It's pretty close to being in Debian. I've got a Ubuntu thing, a homebrew thing, and a Docker Hub thing. So it's very easy if you're slightly technical to run it. And it's got an inbuilt API, so you can query the numbers that it saves and the IP addresses. So you can run it completely standalone or switch on the peer-to-peer mode, and it sticks all the events on a distributed hash table. And if you're part of that and subscribed, you'll receive other users' events to build up this distributed database. And that's all very good. I then moved forward to create a web GUI for it, and I thought, let's add these webhooks so they can go to somewhere central. I can run this code. I want to create something using Elixir. I've been learning Elixir for quite a while now, and bought the Phoenix Live book. Just absolutely fell in love with all the solutions to the problems I've been trying to come up with engineering things for, like proper web sockets, pub sub, distributed caching, completely scalable backend, all the hard stuff, the last 5% of any software engineering project you're doing is there out of the box. And so that's what SentryPeer HQ is written in. It's Apache GPL. I haven't made the GitHub repository public yet, so I want to get some of the tests completed and a few other things, but it's live at SentryPeer.com, which I'll give you a demo of in a minute. But key for me to make it different is that if you run a SentryPeer node, which is the open source thing, you can do everything on that open source project that you can do on the software as a service SentryPeer HQ system. So there's an API built into it. If you don't want to contribute data or submit it to someone else, you can do it all yourself. But this makes it easier for you. So when you contribute data, you can consume that data for free. That's the key element to this whole project, is that we will charge you If you don't want to run nodes, because we built the data up, we run all the infrastructure. So I think it's fair that an open source project charges you for that. You can contribute to the project. It's all Apache GPL. If you can't be bothered running it, you pay us. If you want certain things, you pay us. But by and large, if you run a node yourself with the webhook feature, pop it into the SentryPeer.com API, you can consume that. If you're not a paying user, then you're only going to be able to consume your own data, so you can't poison the pot for anyone else. We don't want any bad things coming in. For those that are service providers, that the first thing I thought when I was designing this is like, I don't want anyone to see the numbers that people are searching, and my customers' IP addresses. So what I'm doing is for the service provider type customers that need really high throughput, because everything's API, very limited for protection. I'm copying the "Have I been pawned" model of anonymity. You can say that word for me.
Something like that.
So when the events come in, we'll take a hash of the number in any privacy data, store those hashes on our side, and then when you actually query the number API, you'll just send us a hash, a bit of it. We compare the hash and then send you back all the possible options that match that hash. So we never actually see the phone number you're searching for or the IP address. It adds a bit more payload, but that's how Have I Been Pawned do it when you check passwords. You take a hash of the password or the email, you send the first 6 characters or digits of the hash, or the first 9, depending on its email or IP. They compare it and then send you, and you do the comparison on your side. So we never see the data. So it's completely anonymized, apart from the client ID of the API client you're using. So that would be for service providers. I might do that for the people that contribute data as well. So that's the model. So I'm running nodes all over the place. We're using different cloud providers, so you can pop up stuff in different places of the world. It's quite interesting, the type of numbers you see, the times of day, the traffic, and the whole premise, sort of value add offering for this, is that queries to search for phone numbers or IPs sit in between an event where, for example, Yealink, Cisco, or whatever phone has been compromised. They've got past the registration, and now they're doing the probing to see if they can make a phone call. So it's not the phone numbers that make the criminals money and cost the service provider or the home user or the advanced user or the call center money. It's that period of time in between the compromise and let's go and make some money. So the honeypots are taking copies of these numbers, the probes, the times, the things they're doing, and every time your system makes a phone call or attempts a phone call, you'll send a dip to the SentryPeer.com API and we'll return a found or not found, and then it's up to you what you want to do on that event. You'll automatically get an email from us. There'll be a Slack webhook as well, and some other things. But the first integration I've written, unfortunately, because I haven't got to FreeSwitch yet, is FreeBBX. So I've got a proper module there that you could install in FreeBBX, because that's one of the most used on-site things in the world for techie people, and I've used it since 2006. So I went that way first. I will be publishing a FreeSwitch dial plan, XML one, OpenSIPs, Gamma Elio, and an asterisk one for those that want to copy and paste it. But that's officially signed by Sangoma as well, the PGP key. So it's a proper module that I had fun writing over a week in the evenings. Really nice stuff. So yeah, if you're interested, I can show you how it works.
Absolutely, yeah.
It does work. This is just my local host. If I go onto SentryPeer.com, see that's a couple of commits behind. Should be able to show you from SentryPeer. So if I sign in. So yeah, just a bit about the front page. So the goal is to help prevent VoIP cyber attacks, fraudulent phone calls, by detecting the early stage reconnaissance. So when they're starting to test the low-cost geographic numbers that they've got through some throwaway service to make sure they can make a phone call before they reveal their fraudulent numbers. They do this, and that's what we've seen. So there's a wee screenshot of some of the data. And these are some of the stats from about a month ago. There's 200,000 phone numbers I've collected already across different things. Probably around 3 million different events now, and 2,500 different IP addresses from all over the place. And here's a really nice stat that gave me a big smile, is that the Deutsche Telekom honeypot project is all run through Docker, and they pull around 140 copies of our container a day, which I just thought was, from an idea that I built up on an open source thing, to actually being used in a big honeypot like that, I just thought was awesome. So the back end is an Auth0 thing, so you can sign up instantly. We sign in, just go in there, just got a wee alert to say I've logged in. And that's me in. So this is a work in progress. You'll be able to go through and just get your nice heat map of what's been going on. But this is the actual live data that I put in. So you'll see on one day, on a Sunday, we've got 4,000 events. The brighter the color, the more events. On one day, we've got 40,000 events. And that's just a couple of nodes. Once they detect a 200, okay, that's 50,000. They just blast it in, and you'll see like iBeam, Cisco, all sorts of different user agents. It's really interesting. So at the moment,
Nice.
what you do is every login, no matter what plan you'll be able to contribute your own data. So there's a test that once you get started straight away, which uses our data, and that's API limited to about 5 requests an hour or something like that. I'm going to do. I've built a nice Flutter mobile app that consumes the API, and we're going to use Google rewarded ads. You basically watch an advert for 30 seconds or 5 seconds, and then traditionally in the mobile gaming world, you get some coins or something. But I'm going to do it so you get some API request query tokens. So those of you, so we get a bit of money, but you can increase the amount of API limits you get each day by watching a couple of adverts. And the biggie one is the contributor one, where you run the nodes yourself, pumping in the data to us, and you can consume that data. Depends on what API usage limits you've got. Then we've got some business ones with usual get support, keep the project going. And then some service provider ones where you get the anonymity data. These are just made up prices at the moment. But I'll emphasize it's completely open source because I want you to see and be part of the project potentially, look at the security of it. There's nothing like developing in the open, as you know, Luca. It just ups your game. Watching you instantly say that's not good enough. So I really like that. So it's a bit like the plausible IO model, which is another big Phoenix Elixir project. That's an open source Google AdWords, Google Analytics replacement, kind of like GitHub, GitLab as well. I just thought it'd be really cool to do it that way. And anyone that contributes data can see it themselves. So to get a node, you just create a node here. ClueCon weekly. So the idea here is this means something to you. It's PBX in New York or London, because the API limits are going to be on that event ID. So I go into here. So everything's keyed off this. We don't save your username because it comes from Auth0, so we just save an ID. API limits are off this, and all the stats are driven off of that. So it's highly recommended to do a client credential per PBX or node, because that will drive the statistics and analytics and things. So even if you're not getting hits on our database, we'll be able to monitor the patterns. So say we get a spike of queries from your PBX, that's potentially an event that you should be alerted about, whether we get any hits on reconnaissance numbers or not. And so it just gives you the token where to go and some stats. So I haven't got to this bit yet, but if you watch on this one, so this is what you use in the clients. So for me, I ran off to my wife, I think it was last Thursday, saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe that I've done it." And it's this bit here, right, where this client is making API queries. They show up in real time here. And that's something I've been trying to do for a long time through different WebSocket, PubSub, Java WebScript tokens, and all sorts. But it comes out of the box with Phoenix and Elixir. You just go to this page. This page is a Phoenix Live View, which, if you don't know, it's a constant WebSocket's open, which degrades to a polling type thing. And it only gives you the change of data on that page in a push on the WebSocket. So it's completely single page app, but it's driven from the back end. So I don't need to do Vue or Next.js or REST or anything like that. It's all here. It's really nice. So this page will subscribe to any events published on that key, and it'll display them here. So if I get my token, which I've already got prepared, start firing some searches, you should see them appear on the wrong page. Oh yeah, let me change the URL. Oh. Not log into the right account. You know what? You know those moments when you're like, this is working. I've done everything completely right. 2 days it was, and I was logged into the wrong account. And I was subscribed to the wrong client ID. I was like, oh my God, that's just so. I haven't done on this one. Of course. Right, let's go back to localhost. What percentage? Wrong account. Apologies. It's about percentage. Right. Yeah, there we go. That's me searching. So I want this to be fully self-service. So when you're going to here and it says, Office PBX or WebRTC client or call center, whatever it is, you can just click into there, and then you can see all the queries to know that your system's working, and that'll be changed to say, IP address, whatever it is, and stats, and then I'll be applying the same to the nodes, so you can see what events are coming in. And it's a little thing, but it's really interesting seeing it and really handy from a support point of view. But that is what will drive any hits or events. We'll publish on that, and you'll get your Slack webhook or your fill your message or anything like that. So that's kind of where I'm at. All the usual bits are in there. There's a nice status page. It's been running for quite a while now, receiving events. If I log into IO, I'll show you the back end. So it's all hosted on Fly.io, which is really nice. So we've got some nodes. We've got docs.SentryPeer published, but it's not quite live. So you've got your nice API guides, everything like that to get you started. So if we go to here and look at, for example, a node, which is what I'm trying to show you here, which I haven't finished yet, and go to monitoring. This is a Phoenix live backend as well. So you can see I'm running a node in Amsterdam, Romania, Colorado, Hong Kong, London, Sydney, and these are them coming in from Denver. So this is what you'd see on your command line.
Nice.
local SentryPeer
Check
database.
it out.
Yeah, so
Very
then
nice.
some calls come in there. So what the goal here is you're running the nodes, we run them, you pay for that data, you run them, that's fine, you'll get that data. You can see they're spoofing the Yay link, or it might be a Yay link, that's the number they're trying. We're sending a 200OK, logging it to our database, the local one, which lives on there, but that would be your data anyway. So no matter what happens, you've got your data. It's in an SQLite database. We're logging it as a JSON payload, which is what the Honeypot Deutsche Telekom project does, and that goes into their Elk, Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana stack. And then we're posting it to centripeer.com/API/events. And then we've sent a message. You can see some Sydney packets going about, just some guff, some gobbledygook. I can't parse that, which is a bug. I've opened a bug about that. I would still like to log this because it's an event. Hong Kong, I haven't seen any yet. So, and that's Bucharest. A lot of SIP Vicious and Network NM, I think it is. So with people using it and detecting stuff, hopefully we can build up a good database and actually solve this thing, or at least slow it down before it costs anyone money. That's
Definitely.
out with it. Just log out of there.
Yeah, I feel like there is a lot of discussion. So aside from this being a great project which has a lot of useful features, even if you just take it as the as the fraud prevention value and level, I feel like there's a lot of value these days in privacy and controlling your own data,
Yeah,
and it's even more surfacing with the LLM stuff, like various chat GPTs and whatnot, which are effectively trained on people's data. And there are, I wouldn't say real concerns, like those are heavily vectorized, heavily anonymized, etc. But still, at some point, your data is somewhere in there, and
yeah,
it's inextricable from the rest. And you cannot ask just, I mean, literally, OpenAI, or to mention one company, but there's others like the Claude company. There's a few. They're not able to remove your data from the corpus if you wanted to. It's literally not
yeah.
possible. It's not like you
Part of
can
the
ask
model.
them.
Yeah.
And it's I feel like it's a super important discussion right now. And this is also very important, like as you mentioned, the fact that you don't distribute phone numbers and you don't know which phone numbers others are using
Yeah.
and which are being searched for is super very important. So how many people work on this project? It's super interesting.
Say that again, sorry, Luca, the last bit.
How many people work on this project? What's the team size?
Oh, it's just me.
Oh wow, well,
I've
good
done it all.
job then, even more. It
I've,
is it's quite a feat for the size of the project. I mean, it's a
yeah,
lot.
I've had this idea since I was going to pay for the data of the fraudulent numbers. I just thought there must be a way for me to collect this data and share it, and we all build something. So that's where centripeer.org came from, and the fact that I wanted to write a network-based C program because I've always wanted to do that. So I needed an idea, and then I just kind of went from there. I think, as you guys know, creating something that's properly open source and free software, and it ups your game, it involves people in all the different circles and worlds that we're in. If you do like an auto tools thing or all the standard stuff, it just makes things go really quick. And then you open a ticket on another GitHub project, say, oh, look at this, you might be interested. And that's how the whole Deutsche Telekom thing happened. They're actually sponsoring the open source project to help some of the fees. And it's a little bit similar to Fed project API ban, but my focus,
Oh yeah,
we do serve up the IP addresses. But my line of thought is that there's quite a lot of solutions to deal with bad SIP registrations and denial of service and things like that. For me, after running an ITSP for 15 years or so, it's
there's
that
never enough.
it's that in between time of something being compromised and then making fraudulent calls, and then being able to detect that before it hits the service provider. That's where this sits. And you'll get the IP addresses and you can block those, but albeit there's other ways to prevent traffic coming into your public network because we have to do that anyway. Um, but things that just sneak through the radar under certain thresholds are just there all the time, making these calls, but they're not enough to generate things. And for me, it was key to use something like Elixir, which is the airline beam underneath. It's a very proven technology from Ericsson. It's what powers Kazoo and a million other things. So it's scalable. It's part of WhatsApp use it too. And I've pushed, I think just on this computer here, 1,000 requests per second on the API easily. So I'm not bothered about service providers sending every phone call to us because we'll just scale it that way. It's very, very nice.
It is
Yeah,
very
that's
nice.
where we're at. I think by the end of the month, the pop-up protection on SentryPeer.com will be gone, and you'll be able to click. I finished at the weekend choosing the tester plan and the contributor plan, which does a bunch of Stripe stuff in the back end just for fraud, and then you get your login, and you can create a node and an API client, and off you go. So yeah, I'm
Uh,
excited.
Are you looking for, just since we're here, are you looking for help or contributors? Is there anything particular we can help you find? Are you happy like this for now?
Yeah, once I've taken the, the lock off the gate, as it were, you know, send you an email to say it's ready. Get some of your tech guys to see if they can sign up, query an event, and post one. That would be great. So I want to make sure the FTR, which is something Abhinav, who runs Postman, the API, big company. I did a podcast with him, and he explained to me FTR's first time to request. That's how they um, judge all of their systems and their tools. So I would like to understand how long it takes a new sign up to query the API and make sure that journey, the get started guide, the quick start guide. For me, I wrote it so I know what a client credential is and an API and how you go and get your token and stuff. But it'd be good to get some feedback for that. We're speaking to some other companies as well. Um,
Yeah,
and
onboarding is always important.
yeah, I've got ideas that of what I want to see as a service provider. The types of alerts, a Slack notification, an email, a webhook. Um, I want to be able to open up the fact that you don't just need a CentryPeer node because it's a standard event payload. There's no reason you can't send us events from your own OpenShift, Camelio, FreeSwitch system. All you need to do is get yourself an API credential, a node client ID and secret, and then you could send us events as well. So that would be only consumed by you, and it will be sort of rated by us to say it's not a CentryPeer event that's been taken. But you don't need to run the CentryPeer nodes if you're going to send that payload in. So it could become a sort of fraud detection platform where you're sending calls from the WebRTC platform or a call center type system that aren't good, and you're using that for alerting, that type of stuff. But what I want to do is not just the numbers and the IPs that we're saving, but also your usage patterns as well, because that is an indicator of something going on one of your PBXs or call centers or something. So that will allow me to roll up my sleeves and get proper machine learning in. I've got USA Valley Elixir on the software engineering radio podcast next month, specifically to talk about live views and machine learning. So I'm going to make sure I get all my questions in there, how I can use that in Elixir and CentryPeer HQ. So yeah, that's the whirlwind tour of something that's been consuming my sleeping hours and evenings and weekends. So just about ready.
Well, then it's maybe time to expand the community a little, bring in some other developers bring in some contributions. There's always
Yeah,
something
I've
you
had
can do.
a few people have contributed some ideas with syslog and fail to ban. I had a nice guy give us a Terraform recipe to provision the CentryPeer node using Terraform. So just to make it easy for you to put the nodes anywhere on your infrastructure or outside your infrastructure. But just to circle back to the start of the chat, everything you can do at CentryPeer.com, you can do on the node, the open source project itself, the one that's there already, because it has a web API to query numbers and IP addresses. So you're quite capable to run that on your own network, let the data feed in and query it on your own systems. You don't have to use any of this. That's your choice. You will get email alerts and Slack notifications and some other stats and things, but if you just want it in and out, you can use that. But yeah, that's us.
It is really awesome. It is. I mean, there's never enough of never enough security, never enough fraud detection. Unfortunately, after a while, where I feel like it had died down a little,
Mhm.
fraudsters seems to be back in force. Maybe I've just it's just anecdotal, as in it's happened to me recently that I had to deal with a few cases, but I feel like, well, it's the usual cat and mouse game, right? Everybody's trying to get smarter than the previous generation, right? So now fraudsters will try to breach new solutions, and
Yeah, I
there's
mean, that'll be the first thing is we'll start getting fingerprinted on the user agents we're applying with. You'll look up the IP address to see where it's living. Because one of my concerns is that if we run these nodes on cloud services, they'll probably be looking at home broadbands or office-based lease line IP addresses or IP addresses assigned to internet service providers, not cloud providers. So we'll need
yeah.
to make sure we run nodes in different places. And I was going to add a feature where we rotate. I was actually just thinking about this on a run at lunchtime of rotating user agents maybe once a month, and changing the behavior of them so they don't look the same. But that will probably move us more into deception-based detection rather than honeypot, which I think is where we'll go. It's sort of a moving target as people see CentryPeer, the fraudsters. And then there's a lot of work in the UK. I mean,
Really?
you've just done the what's it called? The caller ID protection stuff.
Yeah.
That's been ongoing in the States for quite a while, and Ofcom in the UK are looking to get something similar and stir and shaken by
Oh, yeah.
2025. So that's on my roadmap to then provide a caller ID authentication service in CentryPeer.com, because Ofcom just published an 88-page guide on how they think they're going to do it. So this will be live by the end of the month, so it'll be perfectly placed to have some type of trusted position in the community and the sort of commercial world to try and help with that.
Well, I can tell you from the US point of view of traffic, stir shaken usage has gone up fairly widely, probably because there's a few good open source implementation out there. One is lib stir shaken from, well, the
Okay.
authors of Frizzwich, the second one we wrote and released the lib stir shaken, which is probably the most widely open source used at the moment, library used at the moment. And it feels like we're seeing 50-60% of calls are getting tagged at least at a B level at the station, which doesn't mean it's direct at the station. It's usually something you get from your provider. Effectively, your provider is vouching for your identity, but it's still better than nothing. And I feel like that's helping. Like, we are actually seeing helpful results that are, and meaningful results from that. It's indeed moving in the right direction. So I'm happy that Europe eventually will uptake some of it. Not sure how long it will take. Not sure how
Yeah,
well, because that's always the problem, right? Whenever, unless they, even if it's
the big
mandated,
guys.
oh,
It's the big guys that will make it all work if they get around to it. So these are the top things that we all do. I'll try and make it easier. Yeah, I'm gonna have a look at that project and see if there's anything where I can log events, and serve them up and act on things.
it's actually pretty simple. Comes with a command line tool too, so you can pipe your SIP headers through the command line tool and just get the certification back and read it through. Or so I have a couple applications actually where we haven't fully integrated with that. We're just piping out to the command line tool, getting the certificates and the headers parsed, and coming back and just checking on them without with the parsing. So it was built with easy integration and purpose.
Yeah.
So take a look, and I mean,
Yeah, it
if
might be a good
you
addition to add to the number query part of the.
if you or anybody needs more help, super happy to
Yeah, that
super
sounds
happy
good.
to help. Just ping us, and we're always happy to help people. Cool. Well, thank you, Gavin. It's great. I mean, just CentryPeer is just a great tool. I'm gonna try it out right after, and feels like it's a step in the right direction for protecting networks and traffic. I personally lost a few $1,000s in credit a few years ago, so from then on, I've been very wary. But it's always easy to to get. I mean,
Yeah, I
doesn't
mean,
have to be you. It can be a bug you have somewhere. It can be
yeah,
a library you pull in that's suddenly not so secure. So anything helps, and CentryPeer is certainly a step in the right direction. Will you
yeah.
be attending any conferences in the near future so that people can maybe
Well, I
know and join you?
don't get to travel much. On my list is always ClueCon. Um, used to be AstraCon, but I'm not too sure about that anymore. The way things are. But yeah, I think they're doing better. The OpenSIP Summit, Kama Elio World, and ComCon in the UK, run by Dan.
Oh
I
yeah, it's great.
go
It's
to
a
them
great
all.
conference. Our CTO will be attending this year, so
Oh, that'd be
maybe a
good.
mid year. Yeah, well, you mentioned ClueCon. ClueCon is a great conference, of course. If you want to come join us, it's in August from 14th to 17th in Chicago. I think there's still ticket sale going on, and we still have cold for papers open. So
The main issue
anybody,
is my son. We've got the one boy Ben. He's really disabled, so getting anything more than 2 nights away, or 3 nights is
well,
very difficult. I'll give it
more.
a shot.
Well, we'll get a few. We'll get streaming on, and there's going to be a lot of interesting things going on online too. So, well, super happy to. Even just looking
I'll,
forward to meeting you online for sure.
I'll be in touch with some free switch style plan to use, and hopefully I'm going to get it into CG rates as well, because that'll be a good place to get these queries. So
Absolutely.
yeah, had that on as
So
well.
again, Gavin, thank you so much for joining us today. Gavin Henry, founder of the CentryPeer project, and looking forward to meet you at some conference, online, offline, whatever. And for the rest of the people, I'll see you next week.